Hey, listen, don't fast forward through this, all right? I know that it's the sponsor stuff, and I know you guys probably think you're going to fast forward through it, but don't. Don't fast forward through it because we got a special message for you guys. Please take the time to subscribe to the podcast. Thank you guys so much for all the support. All you can do really is just share the podcast, let us know how much you enjoy the podcast, and share it with your friends. It really helps us out, and it gets the word out. The podcast has grown so much, and today's episode is just a showcase of how many people we're really reaching out with the podcast. So please go ahead and follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, hit subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, wherever it is that you listen to the podcast. Please go ahead and subscribe to it and make sure you share it with your friends. Don't forget to follow Jiu-Jitsu Radio on Instagram, follow Shawn at GorillaBoyBJJ, and you can follow me at Sonder Marketing on Instagram and check out all the behind the scenes of all the photo shoots and video shoots that I get to do with so many amazing jiu-jitsu and MMA fighters all around the world. With that being said, this podcast is brought to you by Choke Aloha. Go to chokealoha.com and use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu Radio and get 20% off your entire order. You can even pick up the newest shirt that just dropped on the 12th. It's super dope. It's a nice little galactic design that I love, and it's out for a limited time. So don't wait until next week. Go pick it up now, because once these prints are done, they are done. They don't reprint them. So go to chokealoha.com, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu Radio. Let them know we sent you. And then check out jujitsusoapco.com when you want to start feeling, smelling, and looking delicious again. That's where you want to go. jujitsusoapco.com. Use the promo code JJRadio and pick yourself up a few bars of their soap. If you get a bathtub that fits you, unfortunately I don't, because I'm too big, tall wise, not outside wise, go get yourself a bath bomb, pick them up, use the promo code JJRadio and get 10% off. You can even pick up some rub-on cologne. Stuff lasts about a good month or two. Even if you use it every day, it's worth it. It smells delicious, and people aren't going to give you weird looks for smelling funky in a bad way. They're going to look at you like, damn, you smelling funky. All right? So go to jujitsusoapco.com. Use the promo code JJRadio. Then check out our homies over at Giraffe Choke. For a limited time, when you use the promo code JJRadio at giraffechoke.com, you will save 25% off an order of $99 or more, and you'll get free shipping. I mean, the only way that can get better than that is free all around. So 25% off your entire order of $99 or more, and you get free shipping at giraffechoke.com. One of the first supporters of the podcast, and we love them and always got to give them all the support to all of our sponsors. But check out giraffechoke.com. And then finally, like I said, it's summertime here. It's still cold up north. Why don't you just come downstairs? Come down to Florida. Holler at your boys. We'll take you over to Nomad Surf, and you'll get 10% discount. You'll get yourself some board shorts, maybe a surfboard. Learn how to surf. Get a paddle board. Maybe get some snorkeling gear. Bring the kids out. We'll have a field day. You know what I mean? We're going to just sit there and hang out by the beach and hang out by one of the most well-known surf shops in the world and a staple in the South Florida surfing community since 1968. But listen, if you can't make it down here, I get it. Tough times all around. But you can always check out nomadsurf1968.com and check out all the awesome gear that they have and any of the events that they sponsor or they have down here in South Florida. So check them out, nomadsurf1968.com. With that being said, we have a special guest on the podcast today. He reached out to us a couple of months ago, and we've been kind of going back and forth trying to nail down a time to be able to get him on here. He has a very important message that everyone should pay attention to, because even though jiu-jitsu is a relatively safe sport when you drop your ego, there are still some risks involved in a martial art that involves heavy physical contact. So without further ado, here is Chris Martin.
You can't
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down. Woo!
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Jiu-Jitsu Radio. My name's Alexis, and I'm here with my good friend, as always, Shawn Ambrosino. And today we actually have a special guest. We haven't done a remote in a while, so we're excited to have a good friend of ours today. As everyone recalls, was about a month ago, we had our friend Tom stop by the podcast and talk about his experience with having to cut down jiu-jitsu training because of a heart issue, a genetic heart issue that he had, and kind of find out about and got deeper knowledge about it, and obviously his family lineage having issues with the same problem, so he was really worried about it. And after we did that podcast, Chris Martin actually reached out to me and was really interested about spreading his message and his experience with dealing with heart issues when it comes to training jiu-jitsu and martial arts. So on the line we have Chris. Chris, pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on today.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you. And yeah, absolutely wanted to spread this message. First, let me say I wasn't able to listen to your previous episode, but I definitely will circle back to that. It's on my list. However, as far as heart conditions, yeah, that's a whole nother topic of conversation, because I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I've heard some stories of some people with some heart issues that had passed away, and I didn't dig too much in detail, and I don't ask questions, but I do know that from hearing somebody having to step away a little bit because of the heart issue probably does make a lot of sense. And I think more importantly, it's just monitoring it, figuring out a way to monitor that type of issue, because the gentleman who passed away here in Milwaukee was a very good friend of everybody in the Jiu-Jitsu community. He was a younger white belt. He had just gotten his blue belt when it happened, and it very sad, very, very sad. And then I also had one of my very good friends and close training partners named Joe, who when I was a white belt, he was a blue belt. And then he was a purple belt, and I was a blue belt. You know how that goes. So he was smashing me my whole life, good friend of mine. And he passed away from heart issues. It wasn't on the mats. However, that's a whole nother topic of conversation, because when you speak with his widow, she will tell you that he was not on the mats when he had that, because he was kind of taking a break from jiu-jitsu. You know how sometimes jiu-jitsu gets in the way because we get so obsessed with it, and our families kind of push back on it. I mean, everybody knows that story.
Of course.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with Joe in a certain type of way. And that and injuries and, life, just like a lot of stories, but it took him away from his health, his rolling. He was eating and drinking a little bit more, not a ton or anything like that, but just enough. And sure enough, Joe had a heart complication and passed away. So that it really is something that I think there needs to be awareness to. But my accident is not heart related. So my accident, let me just give you a quick background, who I am. I've been rolling jiu-jitsu. I started in 2008. I've been one of those guys who have been so consistent with it that it probably did affect my marriage, and that's part of the reason I probably did get divorced. One of those guys. Like, I love it. I live, breathe, I train every day as much as I can, and it's been like that for almost 11 years now. August of 2017, I was on the mats training. My coach, Mark Lehman, was running the practice, and we had our competitive people. It was like a noon class. I had not felt right the week prior. Kind of felt like allergies. And it was really awkward too, because I felt like I had the flu, but I didn't feel like I had the flu. It was like something's not right, but I'm not like super sick. Like I can still drive around and go here and go there, but
Yeah.
I have half of my throat was sore. So just one half. And then you know how sometimes, you know, you have a rough practice and your neck muscles are all like tight,
Yeah.
and you know how like you can like push pressure points on the muscle, and it kind of relieves the pain and you feel relaxed for a minute. I was kind of trying to do that on my left side, but it wasn't my muscles. It was like underneath my muscles I was kind of pushing around at to see if I could get some relief. And I really couldn't get any relief. So it was a weird type of pain. Anyways, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe allergies. I thought maybe I had – it was August, so in Wisconsin we have really bad allergies. I do typically. So it's not uncommon to get sore throats and not feel well. And that's kind of how I felt. But, you know the deal. It doesn't matter how you feel. You go to practice. Your teammates are there. They're waiting for you. You know, your coach is there. This is what
like you could have a broken arm and the coach is still going to say that you're going to still show up, right?
You know, if I have a broken arm, I'm still going to try to find a way to train. You know, maybe I'm on half guard on my right side. You know what I mean? And you know, you try to accommodate. And so an illness, I mean, that's nothing, right? I mean, I would rather train with the illness than a broken arm any day of the week.
Sure.
And so I went into the practice that day, and we were going hard, and I was going with my friend Rob. Rob's, we've been rolling together for quite some time, so he knows me and I know him. And he even says to this day, he goes, "Man, that day you just didn't feel right. Like something was off." And it certainly was, because I found out as we were rolling, you know, probably about like the third round marks, like, all right, yeah, Chris, you're gonna go with Rob. So we went. Rob just smashed me. I just didn't feel right. And then he's like, Mark's like, okay, who wants to roll again? Like maybe it's like the second or third. He's like, who's still going? You know. And so everybody's raising their hand, and of course I'm like, I feel like shit, but I'm gonna raise my hand anyway. So I raised my hand, and Chris, go with Rob again. I'm like, oh shit.
It's like, are you having a bad day? Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's how I felt. And then Rob was working on north-south chokes. Layman's really good with that. Before, I had been rolling with Rob forever, and Rob wasn't hitting north-south chokes until our new coach Mark came, and then it all changed. And so he was very confident with his north-south. So he puts it on me, and I was holding the left side of my neck, and I was breathing. So I'm like, oh, I'm breathing. I'm like, I'm good. I'm totally good here. I'm like, just relax. He's gonna make his adjustment. When he does, let's try to get your frames and move. And he did make an adjustment, but he just made it a little bit tighter, and he dropped down, closer to my neck. And I felt it, but I still had two hands peeling the left side. So if this makes any sense, it's like almost like you had a straw coming out of your nostril and you're kind of breathing through the straw, and you're like, I'm breathing, I'm good. And I felt completely like I could breathe. And then next thing you know, Rob just let go of me. Just let go. I wasn't sleeping. Absolutely not. Like I was 100% awake. Rob just let go, and he stood up, and I'm kind of like trying to get up too. And all of a sudden, like, I try to get up, like sitting up from my back, and I fall back down. And then I'm like, he's like, everybody's like, oh, he's like, just relax. And they even tried picking up my legs, and I'm like staring right at him. I'm like, yo, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not asleep, like, but I couldn't move.
Could you talk?
So next thing you know, I tried to open up my mouth, and this is what it sounded like. Yep. There you go. So nobody has any idea. I'm completely paralyzed on my left side. I can't say a word. I can't move. I'm completely confused. And they called the ambulance about 2 minutes later. The ambulance comes. They put me in the ambulance. and they rushed me to the other side of the city, which took about maybe like 20 minutes, half hour. They put me under. They and nobody has any idea what's going on at this time. Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's looking at me in the eyes. Nobody's telling me what to do. Now, I'm giving you the short story because everything that's going through my mind, that's a whole nother story right now.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm just giving you the nuts and the bolts. I'm completely aware of what's going on. Only problem is I can't talk and I don't know anything. I don't know my mom's name, my kids' names, my phone number. I know nothing. I can't. If they ask me, I try to talk it. They're trying to show me like fingers, like, okay, we're gonna hold it up. Is it 4? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, fuck,
Yeah.
So like I was completely like, you were completely brain dead for the most part, like, or you're getting there pretty damn close. So they put me under. They shot a clot to my brain. A clot buster called TPA. You only have about 4 hours to get this thing, because what happened to me was I had a massive stroke because there was a clot of blood sitting on my left carotid. So that entire week I had a torn carotid artery from jiu-jitsu.
So it was completely torn, and then like the blood was just clotting up there?
It's not like completely, like, it's not like you think like it's like severed in half and torn across.
Right.
It's like a little partial tear, and then it forms a clot. So then what happened was that day, Rob's throwing, it was on my left side, Rob's throwing the north-south choke on me. He has his right bicep on my right carotid, right? And the left side is where I'm holding, but that was the side that had the tear. It's called dissection. And there was a clot sitting on there. And so the brain's looking for air. We need some air. Poof! And then it blows the clot to the brain. Shoots to the right side of my brain, coming across the top. My whole right side is paralyzed. I can't move it. And I can't speak because it hit that right side of the brain. I forget what it's called, but it's like the cerebral or something like that.
So at this point, so now the clot bursts. They call the ambulance. They're driving you to the hospital.
Yeah.
What's going on through your mind as far as like, are you able to really kind of like formulate thoughts, and like obviously you can't speak, but like what's going on through your mind? It's like, oh shit, like what the fuck is going on?
So oh shit, what the fuck is going on is exactly how it's going down in the beginning. And then as they were rolling me out of the gym, I'm looking up at the sign. So I'm a part owner of this gym. And you guys know how it is. You sacrifice a lot of time and energy to build a brand in a gym, and people don't see behind what goes on, all the hard times and the sacrifices. And sure enough, like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking up at the sign, it says Nova, and I'm looking up at the sign saying, this is not how it was supposed to go. I cannot believe I'm dying. And then I got in the ambulance, and then I started thinking about my friend Joe, who did pass away. In my when I'm not on the jiu-jitsu mats, I work in the insurance industry. So I work with families. I help them with life insurance, disability, health insurance needs, families and businesses. That's my specialty. So part of that is working with families to make sure that if something like this were to happen, there's life insurance available, so that if you do pass away, the family's not gonna, need to sell the house and, go on to Medicare or Medicaid, I should say. You know what I mean? Maintain.
And like deal with
it's maintain the same lifestyle that they have when you were alive, without having to. How are we going to bury this guy? How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for that? Like, that just doesn't make sense. It's so cheap to buy life insurance. Anyways, my point is that I was thinking about my friend Joe. Of course, he protected his family, so I was thinking like, wow, Joe went early. He protected his family. Now you're going to go early. You're protecting your you are protected because I do have life insurance. So I'm thinking about my kids, and I'm thinking about how they will have the life insurance and they'll be okay financially. But then something clicked in me, and it was, you know what? It's fuck that. They don't need the money, bro. They need you right now. And
so you were literally going through like the checklist of like, okay, like car paid for, like rent's paid for, like I'm not leaving like the kids like hanging kind of thing.
Dude, it was life insurance is in force. I didn't give a fuck if anything else was paid because life insurance is in force and they're going to get that money, and it's enough to pay for all of that stuff. Exactly.
So hold on, Shawn's got a question for you.
Yeah.
So Chris, you said Rob just let go.
Yeah.
What did he feel or see that made him? He said let go and just freak out.
He told me, he said, you weren't moving. He's like, I pretty much thought you were out. And he's like, you weren't moving. He goes, something wasn't right. And to this day, like, I'm so thankful he let go. It was hard for him, for a while after this accident. Rob Smith is a former big, like 280-pound former MMA fighter. He fought Rampage Jackson back in the day and went to the decision with him. So let's put it that way. Like he's a beast. And
he's not a small guy,
Yeah, so I'm so thankful that he let go, but he told me, he goes, I felt it. And so that's part, we'll get back to that because that's part of the conversation that I want to have from the awareness standpoint of, how do we need to train differently, knowing, because my question to both of you guys, Alexis and Shawn, is did you know that something like this could happen? Did you know that somebody could have a stroke by getting their carotid arteries torn?
Well, Chris, funny you say this. When I was a blue belt, I was training at an American top team in Boynton Beach. And we had a guy there named Harrison. And he was training one day. He got caught in a triangle. He tapped. He went to get up. And he fell down.
Yep.
Had the same thing that happened to you happen to him. But he's never gotten back on the mats again.
Yeah, I don't blame him. It's a scary thing, man.
It's funny, though. It's that, and Shawn and I have talked about this plenty of times because we've trained so much. And there's a huge size and strength difference between him and I in skill, obviously. He's a black belt. I'm a blue belt. And I've gotten so much from my game from Shawn, but it's one of those things that he'll sit there and he'll put the chokes in. He'll make sure that they're in, but there's always an understanding of he knows how I roll. I know how he rolls. So I know if I make a move that might hurt him, like I know right away. And there's that time that we've put in together training is what's going to happen and how he normally reacts. And even if you're having an off day, that aspect of your training partners is a huge part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think that's kind of the evolution of, and let me ask you this, Shawn, have since you saw that accident firsthand, did that at that time change the way that you thought about jiu-jitsu or the way that you train with people and their necks?
You know what it is for me?
Well, here's what it was. We kind of attributed the stroke to his lifestyle.
Yeah,
he didn't exactly live the cleanest lifestyle. There's some foreign substances involved with that. So like we didn't know if that was what it was or if it was the actual training. So we kind of let's let it go. It was probably his lifestyle.
It's just a freak accident kind of thing. But what's
so
funny is that we have, like I said, like our friend Tom that found out all these heart issues that he had. And Tom and I used to train hard. We were both white belts at the same time, and we would go at it. And Tom is an extremely well-fit guy for someone his age. I mean, someone any age. He's very, good cardio, super strong, and you wouldn't tell, he's whatever, however old he was when we were training. So once we found that out, And he called me up. He's like, listen, man, I just went to the doctor. They told me all this. I might have to do surgery. It's like super serious. And the first thing that I thought was like, fuck, man, think about all the times that you and I just went hammer down.
Yeah.
And we could have been stupid. I mean, if you go with someone and you're being stupid and it's like, okay, well, you're holding on to the choke that long because he's being a dick to you or something.
That's the main. I think that's where we have to step back. You know, I understand what you're saying, Shawn, when you're like, yeah, you know, he probably just had a stroke, you know, lifestyle and et cetera, et cetera. So let's say that is the case. But now let's fast forward back to my story.
Yeah.
So I don't have any hereditary, you know, there's no, you know, genetic stuff. I don't have, you know, like I said, I've been training, you know, when this happened, I had been training for 9 years, pretty much, you know, nonstop, 3 to 4 days a week. You know, healthy average, you know, your average dude, you know, I'm not training for worlds or anything like that, but you know, I'm in Wisconsin here, so we do like to eat beer and cheese a lot. But so compared to the average 40-year-old, I'm doing pretty good and that I attribute to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I didn't have any high. I do check my numbers. Didn't have any high numbers or anything like that. You know, no cholesterol, no, you know, diabetes or any of that stuff.
There's like no precursor triggers that like would set off anything.
Yeah, right.
So did the doctors say that the injury or the?
Oh well, let's go back to the story then, so that way we can get to it. So now you're in the ambulance. You're getting carted off to the hospital.
Yep.
They inject the TPA you said?
Yep, the TPA. Mm-hmm.
So then what happens next?
Okay, so like I said, in the ambulance, you're thinking about. You're checking off you're dotting your I's, checking your T's, and trying to come to comfort with the fact that you might be dying here. And then they put you to sleep, and they put the TP. Well, two other things. So there's a lot to be said. I'm a very bad example of a recovery case for this, because as serious as it was. To where I've come back to now, I think a lot of people don't even know that this has even happened to me. And I am still training just like I was before, and I will get to that in a minute. But when I started thinking about my kids in the ambulance, I didn't know what was happening. Nobody, not even the paramedics, nobody was looking at me and saying, nobody said, listen, hey, Chris, it's going to be okay. You need to relax, and we're going to get you to the hospital. You're just having a stroke, and they're going to shoot something into your brain. And once they do, everything's going to be okay, but you just have to react. They won't even look at me in the eye. So I think I'm dying. I hear the machines going like, and like they seem real nervous. Let's put it that way. They didn't seem comfortable, and like they've done it a million times.
Just bad bedside manner.
Yeah, well, or it was that freaking serious, and that's kind of what was going on. But during that time, I started thinking about my kids, and my adrenaline just kicked in, and I started going, like trying to tell myself, like, get the fuck control of yourself, dude. Like everything I had, like everything. And then I got to the hospital, and then they sent the priest to my bed. To basically say the goodbyes and put me under, and I'm looking at this priest. I'm thinking to myself, dude, I'm not going, bro. I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not gonna die. Like this is not happening. And then they put you to sleep, and then you wake up in your bed, and your eyes open, and my family was all around me, and I said to myself, holy shit. I survived. And then the next thing I thought about, and this sounds like a sales pitch, but it's not, it's true, is I thought about my disability insurance policy. Because before I realized that I had just survived, but now I realized that life is going to be different. I wasn't able to walk. I'm probably paralyzed, and I can't probably speak. I'm probably in a brain dead, like I'm done. I'm like, so I said to myself, at least I have my disability policy. It's going to make life a little bit easier. You know what I mean? So
That's funny.
it is. It is.
It's like this. It's so funny. Like it's like this is obviously a super serious story, but because of what you do, it's like people feel like it's an April Fool's joke, or we're gonna try and sell life insurance at the end of the podcast. Like that's not the case. It'd be great.
It would be the greatest commercial of all time, though.
Right. That's not what we're going for. So please stick to the podcast. So you automatically like, okay, so I'm stuck. Vegetable paperwork is set though. Like the paperwork was done.
Yep. So paperwork's done. Okay, now I got to figure this out. And then, the hardest part, my kids weren't there. It was, my mom, my dad, my sister, my other brother and sister were in another state, and my ex-wife. It was like, it was kind of like, we're not sure what's going to happen. We don't know how you're going to recover, and, we got to stay positive and this and that and all that kind of, stuff. And then they left, and then it was just me with the nurses, and I'm, you can't talk. I mean, like,
were they hot?
There was one, there was one.
It's like, at least I'm dying on good.
No, it's all. Of course, I'm thinking that in the hospital. Like, hopefully, there's some hot nurses.
Right? It's not like I just had a stroke. It's like, hey, nice rack.
Here, the one really cute one was the one that said to me and was super positive and was like, "I guarantee you're going to be fine." Everybody, all the other nurses were like, some people come out of it like this, and some people come out. So it's kind of like, but the cute one was really positive with me and said, "You're gonna come out of it. You're gonna be just fine." And she gave me a lot of motivation. And
shout out to the cute nurse with the positivity. Dude, I like that
for sure.
Shout out to all cute nurses.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, cute nurses. You have the opportunity to really help people in this, and I think they do know that. Unfortunately, the sad thing is a lot of these nurses are very overworked, and this hospital system needs to change, because I have some nurse friends and they just tell me some horrible stories. But anyways,
it's a big bad system. So let me ask you something though. So the priest comes up to you and he does he just start giving you like your last rites, or is he like, hey, I'm just here for comfort?
No. So I joke around with people, and I say that was the angel of death, because when I look at him, he didn't say anything. He was smiling and looking at me with a big smile. He was an African priest, and just smiling, and I'm kind of looking at him, and he's kind of looking at me, and there's really no words spoken. And I just remember saying to myself, like, no, dude, I'm not going. So that
when you say African priest, I'm in my head, I see the priest from That's My Boy.
I haven't.
Chris knows what I'm talking about. Am I right?
No, I haven't seen it, but
what? Oh no, not That's My Boy. Grandma's Boy.
Oh, Grandma's Boy.
No, I haven't seen. I'll have to check it out. But
so he really didn't say anything to you. He just came out smiling creepily, like taking your hand or something.
Yeah, like literally, like
fuck that guy.
Yeah, literally came out of nowhere. So I say it. I'm like, dude, I think that was the angel of death, and that was my time where I was like, no, I'm not ready to go right now. So
have you ever run into him? Like, have you ever seen him ever again after that? Okay.
No.
Because if that was me, I would hunt him down. Just tell him like, listen, you're a fucking asshole. And, like, you need to like rethink your fucking your service here, bud. Because that's fucked up, man. Like, that's not just me, right?
No, that's how I was thinking. It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me. So
like, I'm already in a bad fucking situation. I don't need you to creep me the fuck out right now.
That's kind of it, man.
Oh, you know what? I bet you. Did you ever see Poltergeist 2?
Yeah.
That dude. Hot as in.
Yeah, no, man. Screw that.
Yeah.
Like, someone needs to write like a bad Yelp review for that. Wait, fucked up, man.
It was good though, because you were like in your head, you were like, "No, I ain't dying, dude."
Yeah.
I'll see you in a few minutes. I'll see you in a minute, Padre.
So, all right. So you wake up. family's there. Then
Yeah.
like things finally calm down. You're there with the nurses. So what happens next?
Yeah, so what happened next was just like it just like all the other stories that I'm hearing about of people who had strokes from similar strokes. The first thing, what do you guys think? You're laying in bed by yourself. Your family's left you. Now you're by yourself. Okay, what are you thinking about?
Will I ever be able to roll again?
There you go.
No,
That's it.
yeah, I mean, like, can I walk? I mean, like, so for me, it's different. Like, that's one of like my worst fears actually. And I had surgery for deviated septum, and I woke up halfway through the surgery.
Oh.
So I remember being like on the bed and like getting pinned down. And I was starting to swing on people and stuff like that. So, like, have you ever? I don't know if you're a Metallica fan. You know the song "One."
Yeah.
So it's like based off of a book, Johnny Got His Gun, where it's like a soldier gets his arms, his face, his legs, everything blown off in the war, and he's basically just trapped in his body. He has no way to communicate. So that's like my biggest fear. So that's why, like, yeah, it's like
that's
roll,
how I
but
felt.
for me, it's like
That's how I felt in that stroke, man.
yeah. See, that shit like creeps me the fuck out, like for sure. So that's why I was like, yeah, I would be like, all right. So first, like fingers, toes, can I start moving, and then like, all right, what's next?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in bed, and that's kind of I could move my right hand a little bit, and my leg I couldn't move though because they stuck the however they got the TPA, it came up through like my leg.
The catheter?
Yeah, exactly. It came up through there. And so I wasn't able to move that for like, I want to say like a day and a half or something like that. And then they took it out, and then I could move. And yeah, I was wobbling to, after day 3, I was wobbling to the bathroom and stuff like that. And then, I walked, like, I want to say day 4, I walked my way out of the hospital, just absolutely determined to get back to where I was before, because I tell people this too. I'm like, yo, when you have a stroke or the sad thing is, this is a different world that we live in. Like, you have a stroke or something like that major, life doesn't stop for you. You still have clients, you still have businesses, you still have obligations, you still have renewals to do if you're in the health insurance world. I mean, just nothing stops. So I didn't really get much of an opportunity to catch back up. I mean, I was basically, I willed myself back because, for me it was, there was no other option. You know what I mean? Like I'm content with my life and what I'm doing with my life and the things that are going on in my life. And I'm focused on finishing, what I started. And this was a very big obstacle that, for me it was, hey, if I knew that there was an ability to get better, I'm going to fucking do it. So, how
long did it take you to get like full speech controls back?
Full speech controls, I would say, I mean, if you think that I'm speaking right now in full speech controls, when I'm speaking, I sound great right now, and I know I do. However, sometimes you have off days where you kind of start, like, you kind of forget words, or we
all have those
things. Yeah. So
I must have had a stroke years ago then.
Yeah.
Shit.
But I would say it took me almost maybe a couple months to get back to, like, it gets better over time. But the first couple months was hard because, there was a really funny story about, so I want to say this is like the second week, and I decided to go out in my car, and I was going to go to the gym, see how things are going, check in on everybody. And then afterwards, like, how we are, we're creatures of habit. So we always do the same things we always do. So everything, every time I would go to the gym, I would always, on my way home, pull out my laptop, do all my emails, and stop at this bar and grill that's open till 12 o'clock, and just hammer out emails for a couple hours. And that's what I do, and so I walked in, and it was a little bit crowded. I was like, oh, it's kind of crowded tonight. And again, this is 2 weeks after the stroke, so I'm really haven't been out in crowds too much. And I looking for a place to sit, and I'm going towards the bar, and these two cute girls turn around and they smiled at me, and they started moving aside a place for me to sit next to them. Any other day you'd be like, oh, rad, but I stopped, and I wasn't expecting it, and I just kind of froze up like I've never seen a girl before, and I turned around and went to this like table by its like a single table by itself. It was close to where there. I'm like, oh no, thank you. And I went and I sat down there because I just wasn't into feeling like getting into conversations or this or that or just, whatever. And a waitress came over, and again, this is week 2, so I'm having a really hard time getting my words out. And so I'm kind of pointing on the menu and stuttering my words. And at the end of the meal, the waitress was talking to the two girls, because I think maybe the two girls may have worked there or something like that, or knew somebody working there. And they I could hear them whispering about me, and they said that they thought I had what was it? What is the Tourette's?
Oh, right.
Yeah, they thought she's like, I think he's got Tourette's. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, oh man, people think I have Tourette's. I'm like, this is just not going well. Yeah. So to answer your question, like it took a while to get the speech back and also to get confidence. I tell people, I tell some of the people that I speak with, the survivors, I'm like, hey, another thing that helps you will be getting back to the gym and getting on the mats and coaching. Because even though you can't do the moves, you can still coach, and you can and having that conversation and trying to, like, even to this day, this is funny. So you know how it is to coach in jiu-jitsu. It's like you got to put your left shin here, and then this goes here and this goes there. Your elbow's over here. So a lot of times I'll have to ask my students, what is this called again? They'll be like, that's his elbow. I'm like, elbow, exactly. I mean, that happens all the time now. So I'm still I still have damage to the brain. So now we're almost 2 years removed. I still have damage to the brain. My spelling doesn't work as well as I would like it to. Sometimes when I think I've written a paragraph or even a couple sentences, what I think I wrote, I'll go back 2 days later on Facebook or wherever I am and be like, dude, it looks like sometimes like I didn't get a high school education. So that's that's been very challenging. So the words and the spelling has been very challenging, almost like I'm dyslexic. The good news about it though is there's spell check and there's Grammarly, whatever you call that thing. Yeah.
Grammarly or something.
Yeah. And then there's Upwork, so you can find somebody for $5 an hour to do some technical review of your writing if it's important. You know what I mean?
You always got Shawn's a writer too, so he can always help you out.
Oh wow, perfect. So go ahead,
Chris, real quick. Of course, now I forgot what I was going to ask.
Yeah, see, I'm done telling you. I think we're all taking too many shots at the dome.
As far as son of a bitch.
As far as what?
It was dealing with
the forgetting and stuff, like saying the elbow or whatever, or the moves.
Oh no, I remember what it was. Sorry, Chris. So I'm sure you had a lot of conversations with God or the universe or whatever. Did you maybe find religion or lose religion during this process?
So that's a good question. I usually don't talk about religion too much because, I have a lot of religious people around me at the gym and whatnot. But I'll tell you right now, I was born and raised in a very conservative Catholic family. And after I found jiu-jitsu, so jiu-jitsu, a typical cliche, jiu-jitsu saved my life. This is way before the stroke. I'm talking like coming out of college, having a unhealthy lifestyle of drinking too much, being heavy, I found jiu-jitsu. I lost over 50 pounds. I was that guy who couldn't do a forward roll or a backward roll, that first day of class. And I've completely changed my body. I found body awareness during if this makes any sense, when I was like
Jiu-Jitsu was your religion.
Jiu-Jitsu, what Jiu-Jitsu did was it opened up my mind to the fact that first it gave me my body and mind awareness. So I didn't know that I had body and mind, like they work together. Like I kind of, how it's like, how with religion you have like, that's a separate entity and your mind's a separate entity and your body is a separate entity and you have no control over this and no control over that. Everything's in somebody else's control. Jiu-Jitsu gave me that like awareness of, oh my God, I can change my body. I have body awareness. I did go through some other health issues back early on with staph infections and MRSA and a lot of it. And I almost had to quit jiu-jitsu back then, early as a white belt and a blue belt. But the interesting thing was none of my training partners were getting staph and MRSA. It was just me. So why is that? And what I had done a ton of research, and I went deep. Like they had me on all kinds of antibiotics. So to the fact that today I'm now resistant to most of them. And I went through a really bad bout of MRSA and almost lost my arms and legs. Just same thing. So the medical people, after maybe the 8th time I was hospitalized, were like, I don't know. This doesn't make sense. Like we don't know what's causing this. Like nothing in your blood work. Like nothing made sense. And during that time, again, I was already too deep into it with jiu-jitsu because I had just lost 30, 40 pounds. So I already thought it was the best thing on earth. My confidence was going up. And I started to dig deeper, and I started to go into researching things like food and nutrition. And then I joined up with this group of people who were breath workers, and I started working with them, just all kinds of alternative stuff. And then I would say during this whole time, I started to question religion, and then I started to see that I had more powers, that I could control more things myself, and it's not out of my control. And I started to open up more spiritually. So I don't want to say I don't have a specific religion, but I'm certainly open to the fact that things happen for a reason. If you are aware of obstacles and what they mean, and you can overcome those obstacles, your life can change. People will come into your life for a reason, and at a time, bad things happen for a reason. Unfortunately, it's usually to try to figure out a way to get you to grow. So I would say I was spiritual going into this, and now I'm not some enlightened being now. I realized a couple things. If anything, I have more respect now than I do for modern medicine than I did before, because I was very bitter with the way I was treated early in the years with my staph infections and my MRSAs, and what I found was, and I started to focus on stress relief and stress management. I got that through the people that I was working with on my breathing and visualizing and meditations and positive affirmations, and getting rid of the negative baggage that I had built up. And then just being more respectful of my body with the type of food that I'm putting in, less processed foods, more organic and whatnot. So I kind of became a hippie, if that makes any sense. But and almost was like, oh, what is modern medicine good for? They gave me all these antibiotics. They're just trying to make money. They want you on all these medications, and there's still some truth to that. But there's also a place for modern medicine because they saved my life. And so I have a tremendous amount of respect. So just like anything in life, it's balance. Balance of what we do, what we put into our body, the type, like not with the world that I have here now, like the way that I'm living and whatnot. Like I said, I don't feel like, oh, I'm enlightened, I got a second chance, amen. It's more like, okay, that happened for a reason. That was hard as shit. I'm very grateful, and I have people around me, and I have the things that I need now to grow from this. And people come into my life and out of my life for a reason. And so I'm thankful to be alive. I'm not sure what comes after this, this place where I am now. So this world that I am in now, like, I don't know where my spirit's going to go. I don't know if it comes back. I don't know, but I know this. I was not ready to go, and for where I am now, I don't think I'm going to be going anywhere anytime soon. But I am very cautious and aware in how fragile life is. So I will say that.
So what do you, after you went through everything and then you finally started getting back into training, how did it affect your actual approach to training?
Oh man.
Like, do you not do any kind of chokes and stuff now?
So that's it. It's changed a lot. So, so one thing I will say, just hold that thought, is I have been reached out to by a number of people who had similar accidents. Because going back to, what's your thought process when everybody leaves and you're in the hospital bed, like Shawn mentioned, is, am I ever going to roll again? And that's a very scary thing. And so the first thing you do is you go to Google and you type in Jiu-Jitsu strokes from chokes, stuff like that, Jiu-Jitsu strokes. And there's a guy on Reddit who I saw a post the other day. And he says, he goes, not too long ago, a couple of years ago, if you would have typed in strokes from Jiu-Jitsu, you wouldn't have found much out there. He goes, but there's this guy named Chris Martin who it happened to him, and he's also been documenting other cases as well. So that's exactly what I've been doing, is documenting other cases of people who reach out to me, because when it happens to them, they do the same thing that I do. They go to Google, they're trying to find explanations, they're trying to find answers, and they're trying to find success stories of somebody who has gone and had this happen to them, and they do want to know that they will be able to get back on the mat.
Yes.
And
they're looking for hope.
Oh, hell yeah, they are. And so there's a guy, Aaron Riley, young MMA guy in Ireland. His stroke happened right after mine. He reached out to me, and I've got the article and everything up on Medium is where I leave all these articles. And I told him, I said, man, I go, you know what? I'm like, don't lose hope. I'm like, he said, my biggest fear is I'm not going to be able to train anymore. I'm like, bro, you might be, you might compete. I told him, I said, you're going to compete again. Cause I read some, he was an MMA guy. And so I did some research on him, after he reached out to me. And, he was one of those guys where there was an article talking about how MMA helped him because he was battling with depression. And we all know people, like, Jiu-Jitsu helps so much with depression in so many people, and it gives them purpose. I think that's the main thing. I think that's what it is. That's the special part of the drug. And I told him, I read, I'm like, dude, this guy's a young alpha male, dude. I'm like, I go, bro, you're going to compete again. And sure as shit, I've done my articles on him. He's been competing, and actually, he's got a page up right now. His name's Aaron Riley. It's a GoFundMe to help him get to Abu Dhabi, to train in Abu Dhabi. So he's competing, and some of these other guys, they are now starting. We opened up a support group on Facebook. My friend Josh Vera, he's a black belt. He just had the stroke this year in January, so he reached out to me on the video I posted about Aaron Riley, coincidentally, and He opened up a support group, and I've been helping get people in there, and people are starting to share their stories. And one of the gentlemen named Shane, that last week just got back on the mats after 3 years. So he's taken
Nice.
his, so I know for a fact that I'm helping encourage, as far as, am I supposed to be back on the mats? Has my training changed? Absolutely. So now that's part of the reason I wanted to reach out to you guys, because in having conversations with the other survivors, the one question I have to them is, knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything in the way that you trained? And all of us are like, no. But knowing what you know now, does jiu-jitsu need to be, now that you know that you can get, dissections on the carotids, and this happens a lot more than anybody knows, because just like Shawn had a story. I talk to people about this, and I once in a while I do find a story here, a story there. As a matter of fact, Josh just texted me, and he's like, "Man, this just happened to a Brazilian black belt." I can't disclose his name right now because he asked for now that he wants to keep his privacy. But it just happened to him 2 weeks ago. So I mean, this is happening all the time. I've got lists.
Yeah.
I got lists of people who it's happened to, because so just like me, when this happens to them, they go to the internet and then they look me up and they find me, and then they come to me. And then I listen to their stories. I give them some advice. I shoot them links to other stories, success stories.
Didn't it happen to Kevin Casey? Didn't Kevin Casey have like a heart attack or something?
Who's Kevin Casey?
Kevin Casey he was on
The Ultimate Fighter.
He was on the Ultimate Fighter. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. I think he just did he was like a stand-in for somebody at like an EBI or something like that. He always gets like pulled up like kind of last minute.
Yeah.
He's out of California, but I'm pretty sure that he had a heart attack or something. Let me look it up real quick because I'm 99% sure. But I know he was another one.
Yeah, so the heart attack and the stroke are kind of two different things. The stroke is more of it's like a brain heart attack, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's the cerebral. Yeah.
And that's happening more frequently to people because of the neck cranks and carotid chokes. So and going back to your original question is, has this affected the way that I train? Absolutely. Number one, I have a stint in the side of my neck now. So in my carotid, I have a stint that's almost about 14 inches long. I want to say they said. So if
that'll be there forever.
That's what I asked, and they're like, yeah, pretty much. But you know how it is, like. Medical changes so quickly, so in 10 years they might come out and say that those stints are shitty, and there might be some type of removal, who knows. But the doctors that I've spoken with so far tell me that the stint is permanent. And another guy that I talked to, Shane, he has a stint. They said his is permanent too. Now what that means to me is, okay, I got this thing in my neck, and I want to make sure it doesn't break or get move around and form a clot, because the same thing could happen to me again. So what that means is, number one, when we're drilling with our partners in class, I have some of my guys know, they know what's up. So it's like they'll put the choke on, but they just won't squeeze. Like, you can still set up the position with the grips without cranking on somebody's neck in how you do it 3 times, I do it 3 times. Okay, let's crank the neck 3 times each. You don't need to do that. So they kind of just go through the motions, or I'll just work in a group of 3 and just be the guy that does it on people, but it just doesn't get done on me. Now,
You win.
yeah, that's a win-win, right? But now Layman has been he's been doing a lot of the situational drilling in our classes. So instead of like, okay, class is over, 5-minute rounds, go. It's more, okay, he goes, you take his back. We do like EBI style. Like, you take his back with the hooks in and the seatbelt grip, and you got to escape, and you got to choke. You got to finish. So that was scary for me in the beginning, to jump back into that. But it did force me to spend a lot more time working on my back defense, and like basically like Mark's philosophy, and I'm using it, and like he's like, how like when you have somebody's back and they say, okay, how do I escape? Typically I've been told, like, you want to try to flatten your back to the side that he doesn't have his choke hand, so like the underside underhook. Mark's like, I don't give a shit where you roll to. You have 2 hands on the choke hand and you don't take it off, and that's it, or else you're gonna die. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play this game for a while. And sure as shit, so when somebody has their choke on me, I have my hand on, like, the forearm, and then my right hand is underneath their top hand, holding onto their fingers, a finger grip, so they can't grab the gi. So they can't, you know what I'm saying? So it's 2 hands, and those are the 2 hands, and I'm wiggling my hips, and I'm moving all around, and I'm not really taking my hands off to like put my hand, to try to push his leg to the ground or anything like that. I'm just holding.
Chris,
yeah.
How many arguments have you had with the family when you told them you're going back to train?
I think my family already kind of knows that I'm just like, there's nothing that you're like, this kid's so hard-headed, like nothing you're going to say to this guy is he's going to do what he's going to do. And it's true. That's how I've been my whole life. And my ex-wife and the kids, it's changed. They know that I'm training safer. And as a matter of fact, not only am I training safer, my kids, my daughters are 12 and 9. Both of them train in the gi. So that has changed a lot, the way that we play with the kids. Like, most of our practices don't include any type of chokes now, because this is happening to people, and the last thing we need is for this to happen to a kid. So right now we're not. There's a couple kids that we'll let them play chokes. The kids that go out and they compete. You know what I mean? We'll let them, but like I'll stop it. Like, if a dude's cranking a neck, I'll be like, tap 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 tap. Like that's just move on. Like there's no room for any kid getting hurt. So the way that I train has changed from that standpoint, especially with back. I'm very scared of getting choked. So, I really do have to. I'm more aware of where I'm putting my neck. Obviously, I'm not the guy that's going to be shooting in on a takedown on you anymore. You don't have to worry about that. Like, I'm more of like, I'm going to play my guard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to play my guard. I'm going to sweep, get on top. Once I do, I'm not letting you back up. Like, that's the game. And then we also started to become very savvy with our omoplata games. So I started to play more omoplata, and even me, like, then Mark started to teach more omoplata, and everybody is kind of starting to evolve to that. Which, if you think about it, like, from the fundamentals, like, everybody shows like fundamentals, like armbar from the back and then triangle, right? But like, not many people show the beginners omoplatas. And I remember, like, even myself, like, I really wasn't playing omoplata, almost a few years ago. So, everything for me was like arm bars and triangles, because that's just what you're kind of taught. But, now I've been showing all my beginners and the kids, like, set up the arm bar from the guard. They're going to pull the hand out, and you're going to have omoplata there almost 90% of the time. So we play a lot of
We have
yeah.
we have a professor down here, and someone that we trained on and off before is Alessandro Polga, and they call him the Polga Plata.
Oh wow.
Like, that's his move. Like, yeah, he has the craziest setups to get into it, but somehow, no matter what, he always gets into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one thing. And then the other thing is I've also adapted how I train with my training partners, because, you know, I'm one of those guys where if I get the choke, you know, I'll kind of like let you know that I have it, but then I'll just keep rolling and move on and look for some more dominant control, or I'm not a submission hunter in practice anymore. Let's put it that way.
Well, you can't be that guy that goes for chokes and then
like, you can't get me, I can get
give me back.
Yeah, and that's not, you know, that's so I tell people, I'm like, yo, attack the choke. Like, I still want them. I haven't rolled yet where I'm like, hey, no chokes. I haven't done that yet. If I had to roll with, you know, with somebody who I don't know, I probably will let them know, like, you know, yo, I've got a stint in my neck, so try to not to go like absolute kamikaze on my neck. But still, I mean, still attack the neck. Like, I can still tap. You know, my ego's not that big that, you know, I can't tap out, because once I feel like, I'll fight it a little bit, but, you know, if somebody gets way too close, because a couple times, like, you know, we had played back drills, and, you know, somebody did get pretty, you know, they got their grips in, and right before they were able to, you know, to extend, it's just like either I say tap or you know, Coach Lehman, you know, will just say tap, tap, tap. Just let them have it. That's done. You know.
Well, that's an important thing. Is when someone's dealing with an injury, I think it's important to have a coach that keeps a wary eye on everybody roll. They should be watching everybody roll.
Yeah.
Like, I very rarely roll with my guys because I feel like it's my job to watch them. But when there's uneven numbers, I'll roll. But at the same time, it's one of those things. That's the job of the coach. It's the safety of your student.
Yes.
So it's nice to hear that Mark has got his eyes on what you guys are doing.
And, you know, the thing is, like, the interesting thing about, you know, I think it's been a change, like, even for him, like, you know what I mean? This is the guy who's, you know, he's training UFC guys. You know, his philosophy is attack the neck in the transition. So it's like, he's like, his philosophy is, I don't care what you do. He's like, I just want you to get to the back and choke him. So, I mean, you know, he hasn't changed up much of his, I'm not going to say he hasn't changed any of his philosophy. That's still the same philosophy. But like you said, you know, he's more aware of it. And, you know, especially after what happened to me, like I'm glad that he did see it. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that others have seen it. But, you know, now we're at this point where it's happening so frequently. That's one of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you is, you know, in May it is Stroke Awareness Month, and, you know, strokes do happen to people under the age of 40. But, you know, there's less than 2% of those strokes in people under age 40 comes from carotid artery dissections, which is what happened to me and what happened to Josh Farah and Chris Lieb and Shane and all the other guys. There's a number of other guys that I have been working with to get their stories out. And same thing. So it's important, going back to the coaches. I asked my people in the groups, I'm like, you know, what would you change about jiu-jitsu now? And they said, they're like, what we would change is the fact that coaches need to be aware of this. And just like you said, Shawn, like, you know, I hope that this story, I hope it changes your perspective. I hope that, you know, if you see somebody, you know, yank it, a lot of the neck cranks and the hard guillotines, you know, you'll say, let it go and move on. Or maybe you'll even have a conversation with your team and be like, yo, you know, there's some stories coming out, you know, so we weren't aware of this, but it is a risk. You need to be aware of it. You need to be respectful of your training partners and their necks, especially. And because most of these coaches, they don't know that this stuff can happen. I talked to Braulio Estima, and I told him about it. He had never heard about it. He's been rolling forever. Patrick Baton, who's Europe's first American black belt. He's been out, one of Hickson's guys for whatever 20 years or something like that. He's never seen it, never heard of it. So, and even some of these coaches in Wisconsin, nobody's ever heard of this. Shawn, you saw it, but again, that's exactly what I think. A lot of these schools, when it does happen to other guys, I think that's kind of what the students are looking at. It's like, he must have a genetic disorder, or he's out of shape or eating too much cupcakes. But the truth of the matter is, even if that's the case, those guys still deserve a place on the mat to train. And we still have to be respectful of those guys. We probably need to even just be a little bit more respectful of the necks of the guys who are over the age of 40, because that demographic is certainly more susceptible to this type of stuff as well. And jiu-jitsu is growing at a fast pace. I know that. I know there's going to be way more of these stories, and so that's why I'm trying to mitigate these stories.
And that's the big part too, is that with the growing popularity of the martial art, we're going to have more and more people, and then obviously that raises the risk factor of someone that either doesn't understand the way that the human body can react to certain things like that. Because at the end of the day, even though we call it the gentle art, we still put the body through a shocking event.
Gentle art, my ass.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like one of the things that, and Shawn and I talked about this a long time ago, was that once your friends find out what you do, they're always like, so can you put me to sleep? What's it like to go to sleep? And then you always have people that are stupid enough or willing to say, hey, choke me. Can you choke me out? It's like, no, man, I don't know what's going to happen. Because now you'll see sometimes there's people that have had seizures, and all of someone just sitting there like, oh, choke me out when they're at the bar and stuff like that. That's stupid games that you play. And it's, we do it inside of an academy, inside of a dojo, where we understand the rules, we understand what's going on. And if something happens, for the most part, we can react to it accordingly. Then we get into rare situations like you, but at the end of the day, it's still people, if it wasn't for your training partner understanding, I got to let go because this isn't right, it could have been something totally different. If you're at the bar and someone's doing something stupid, they let go and they just drop you and you smash your head on the bar.
Yeah, right.
Well, what's funny is I have this, I don't know if it's a philosophy, but it's this saying, is I don't like my guys fighting any of the joint locks. So arm bars, ankle locks, knee bars, any of that stuff. I say tap, just tap. I go, fight the chokes as much as you want. I can wake you up. I can't put you back together. But this makes me go, maybe this isn't the smart philosophy to have when it comes to chokes.
Yeah, man. I can assure you that it's not, because that was the same philosophy that I had as well. And that all the guys that had the stroke, same thing with them. It's like, hey, I'll fight out of this, because the worst case scenario, I'm going to go to sleep. But that's not worst case scenario, because we are dealing with the neck manipulations. A lot of these guys who have told me about their story, it was they know exactly what the choke was. They know exactly who it was against, and every single time theirs was more of some spazzy white belt or blue belt really attacking the neck and them fighting out of it, because the technique wasn't precise. It was there was room to get out, but it was a strong dude, attacking the neck. And then right after practice, now wasn't massive where they were stroking out instantaneously, but it's almost even worse. It's almost like a silent, slow but silent. You slowly can't, you're kind of dizzy, but you're not sure why. Maybe you chalk it up to dehydration. maybe you chalk it up to jet lag like one of the guys did, and then next thing you know, you just I just need to go home and sleep it off, and then next thing you know, you go home and sleep it off, and then you wake up, you still have a headache, you still kind of feel out of it, and then you're kind of slurring your speech, and then next thing you know, it took 2 days, and now your fucking wife is telling you, you know what, I talked to Debbie at the supermarket, and she says you're having a fucking stroke. Oh shit, let's get you to the doctor. And that's what's happened to a lot of these guys. And so, like I said, mine, I had a dissection. It was the clot was sitting there for, they said it could have been a week. They said it could have been 2 weeks. And obviously they said that came from me just being stubborn and not tapping. And then I got that tear. And then
do you think you remember what that was from? Like,
No.
do you remember the roll, or do you remember a choke
No.
that you fought out of within that time period that you were like, oh, that sucks?
No, but you know what I think. I can't say for sure, but that's during this time I was rolling with Mark a lot, and he uses the punch choke to open up the guard. So I mean, that punch choke on the lapel, it's coming right up in that underneath area. You know what I'm saying? It's brutal. Like, now I use it. It's, man, punch choke you don't, like Mark says, he's like, don't try to finish it from the guard. He's like, use it to open the guard, and when it's open, you pass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what he does. And he gets it. You know how it is. Like, not many people played punch chokes these days. But when Mark started doing it on us, like, it's like, dude, you feel it. It goes right up in that carotid. If you do it if you know exactly where to go, your pinky and your ring finger is like right up in that carotid. And so I that may have caused the tear. You know what I mean? Or there was a dude that was coming up from Chicago around that time and training. So private training with Mark. Mark's got some back issues. So when he does privates, it's kind of like you got to either bring somebody, or else, Mark usually would ask me to be like the dummy, and I have no problem with that. So a lot of it was, again, attacking the back and forth, just attacking the neck. So it could have been from that. It could have been from the punch chokes, but it wasn't. I don't have that one, like, oh man, I fought out of that choke for 2 minutes. It wasn't anything like that, So but what?
It's just another day in the office.
It was just another day in the office, but it was also, the only difference is, and that's the other thing is what we know now. So I talked to these other guys, and my other question is like, if you could tell a new beginner jiu-jitsu practitioner, like, some tips of advice. Obviously, you have that conversation about hygiene. So you talk about the jiu-jitsu soap company, and then after that, washing your gi. And then you have the conversation about respecting the next, but then also respecting your body. And I was talking to Josh, and he's like, man, the one thing that I would say to somebody, it's like, if you're not feeling well, and studies have come out, he showed me some studies that says you're more susceptible to a stroke right after, or a torn carotid right after a flu or an illness. And so, like, if you have the flu and you go back into the gym like a couple days after because you're feeling better, like we all do, he's like, the one thing that you could do to probably mitigate this is to not roll with chokes, or, like I said, like, really just,
or white belt.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. So that's one thing, is it's having that conversation with your students. Say, listen to your body, respect your body. If don't, the old days of, we're just going to grind it out, and it doesn't matter if we're bleeding and we have a flu, or I've heard of guys going to the gym with you name it, some horrible things, illnesses and staph, broken bones, staph infections. It's like, dude, take the time off. But from a virus standpoint, especially after virus, just chill out on the neck for a couple weeks. So that's something I think you're gonna find. If I would have, because remember I said that the week prior I kind of felt like I had a virus. If I would have played that like Josh says, I should have said, you know what, I'm going to roll light this week because I have a virus, or I had one, and I'm not going to do any chokes. This wouldn't have happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, but if you deal with like, what if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? I mean, you'll just go crazy, and it doesn't change anything. All you can do is just sit there and plan ahead. So with everything after everything happened, and then you started doing your own research, and you really started connecting with everyone, and kind of starting to build a community of like survivors, I guess, if you will. What's the main thing that you can tell someone, like, as far as like prevention wise? Is there something that people can say, like, okay, are you going to have to go get MRIs or CAT scans or stuff like that? Or like, I mean, like you said, it's, don't roll after you just got sick kind of thing. Like, what's something that people should really do to say, hey, maybe I might be at risk at this?
So, I mean, first of all, the signs, like, look for the signs, of, having some blurry vision, or having some dizziness or some numbness. See, mine was a massive stroke. A lot of people have just little mini strokes, but the mini strokes over time can cause a lot of damage and can also turn out to be a larger stroke if it's not dealt with. So number one, just again, you have to also look out for your training partners, because when you're on the mats and you see somebody who's after class is kind of mumbling or not making sense, or is complaining of arm tingling or numbness, something's not right, that's the time that you need to console that person, that they might need to go seek some treatment. So that's one thing. The other thing is, obviously, it's having the conversations with all your training partners and new people in the academy to just say, hey, we really have to respect the necks, because stuff like this can happen no matter how healthy you are. Stuff like this can happen. I mean, there is a report of a Brazilian in Brazil that died, and they think it was somehow related to this. He went home after practice, and it sounds like he just didn't get treatment, and he died 2 or 3 days later. So, it is something that we have to be concerned about and have conversations. And then second is, making sure that when we tell these guys, like, if you have a choke, like, here's the way to finish. Don't force it. Like, don't just move on to something else. Like, this is not IBJJ final 2 minutes. This is just a friendly roll. So, I mean, that just respecting the neck and having awareness, I think, is the first step for all of us.
So Wu-Tay. Bottom line is Wu-Tay. Protect your neck.
Oh, 100%. It is protect your neck. 2 hands on the choke hand.
That's funny. 2 on 1. Yeah. It's always 2 on 1. Well, Chris, so next month is Stroke Awareness Month. If people want to get more information and really kind of, they might have some questions or they want to help out in any way, where can they reach you?
Yeah, reach me. You can find me on all the social channels. It's BizJitsu, which is BIZJITSU, BizJitsu. So at BizJitsu, that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. And then and Medium is the most important. So if you just go, chokes from BJJ's chokes, you're gonna find my articles, you're gonna find my YouTube videos. So I know I'm not a hard guy to get in touch with. Otherwise, you can email me cmartindirect@gmail.com.
Cool. And then we'll throw in the links to Medium. It's medium.com @BizJitsu.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
And we'll have them up on the descriptions in the iTunes and YouTube and all that stuff, so they can definitely get a hold of you. And anything else we need, we'll definitely get you back up there and get you back on the podcast and talk some more about it, and we can get into some crazy stories.
Yeah, sounds good. And hopefully, I have some more success stories over the next couple of years that I can share as well. So I appreciate you guys letting me use this as a outlet to get the word out.
No, I appreciate you taking the time and reaching out and coming on here and really sharing your story. I mean, it's definitely kind of intense. Even though we joked around and stuff, it's definitely nothing to scoff at, and it's something that people really should pay attention to. It's a gentle art, but we're still choking the shit out of each other, and it does cause some damage. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing good, and we're definitely curious to see all your work and the benefit it does for the jiu-jitsu community.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. I think that's it for us. Chris, just hold on to the line. We're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please make sure you follow Chris and check out at BizJitsu. Follow Shawn at Gorilla Boy BJJ, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us at Jiu-Jitsu Radio, and we will catch you all next time.
You can't
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down.